He had prepared for everything, every smallest detail. Gloves covered each finger, his face was concealed, the lens obscured, every angle accounted for and rehearsed until perfection. His movements were smooth, precise, without hesitation, the kind of efficiency that doesn't belong to amateurs. He thought about the cameras. He thought about the DNA. He thought about the mask, the backpack, the holster, and even the escape route. He thought of everything, except one thing: the ring. Just a single frame, frame 47. The Nest doorbell camera captured it at 1:47 a.m., February 1st, 2026. His right hand reached toward the lens, and in that exact moment, beneath the black glove, through the stretched latex, the ring reflected 6 seconds of infrared light. A tiny mistake, yet enough to shatter a perfection no criminal in history ever intends to break. A gold pinky ring, size 9, set with a single stone, something he never took off. It was with him everywhere, even on the night he approached the front door of an 84-year-old woman in Catalina foothills and shattered the normalcy of her world. Now, 75 days later, a trail through Tucson jewelry records has finally attached that ring to a name. But before the ring, before frame 47 and the 6 seconds that changed everything, we need to go back to the beginning. Nancy Ellen Guthrie, born January 27, 1942. Just 4 days before she vanished, she had celebrated her 84th birthday surrounded by family. Her daughter Annie and son-in-law Tommaso, sharing time that felt routine, familiar, safe. That same sense of normalcy carried into the Saturday night before she disappeared. Dinner, a game of mahjong, quiet laughter. The kind of evening that blends into a lifetime of ordinary moments. Until one night, it doesn't. And Nancy had spent more than 50 years building her life in Tucson. Since the 1970s, she had created a world of steady routines in the Catalina foothills, a peaceful, affluent neighborhood where life moved gently and danger felt distant. The kind of place where nothing ever seems to happen, until something does. As she is the mother of Savannah Guthrie, a face millions of Americans wake up to each morning. But Nancy herself lived far from the spotlight. At 84, she relied on a pacemaker, removed her hearing aids each night, and depended on daily medication she couldn't miss. During a February 5th press conference, Chris Nanos made something painfully clear. She could not walk 50 yards on her own. A short distance for most, impossible for her without help. And whoever took Nancy knew that. This wasn't chance. It wasn't sudden. It was planned. Someone chose her, studied her limitations, returned more than once, and waited for the right moment. What happened wasn't random. It was controlled, calculated, and carried out with a level of precision that even teams of investigators have described as deliberate and targeted. On March 13th, speaking to NBC News, Chris Nanos used one word: targeted. Not random. Intentional. The man seen at 1:47 a.m. on Nancy Guthrie's porch, masked, gloved, carrying an Ozark Trail backpack, with a strangely positioned holster, didn't just arrive there by chance. He chose that house, that street, that exact moment for a reason. And somewhere in that reason, combined with the ring caught in frame 47, lies the key that could lead investigators straight to him. The timeline begins the evening before. On January 31st, 2026, at 5:32 p.m., Nancy was picked up from her Catalina foothills home by an Uber. Records confirmed, the driver later located, footage verifying she was safe. She was heading to her daughter Annie's home just a few miles away. Dinner followed. Mahjong. Laughter. Another ordinary Saturday night. Hours later, around 9:50 p.m., Annie's husband, Tommaso Caioni, drove her back home. He walked her to the garage, watched the door close, and left. That moment, captured in time, became the last confirmed sighting of Nancy Guthrie. After that, the timeline goes dark. 4 hours, the Nest doorbell camera showed nothing out of place, until 1:47 a.m., February 1st, 2026, when everything changed at once. A masked figure stepped onto the porch with calm precision, no hesitation, no searching. He didn't look around. He moved with certainty, straight toward the camera, as if he already knew exactly where it was. Former FBI profiler Brad Garrett later described the movement as targeted ownership behavior. This wasn't a stranger guessing his way through the dark. This was someone familiar. Investigators would later confirm he had been there before. One of the released images wasn't even from that night, but from an earlier visit, a quiet rehearsal. Same mask, same porch, different day. He came once to study, and once to act. Then the critical sequence unfolds. Frames 1 through 46. Approach. Positioning. Control. Frame 47. His right hand reaches forward, and for a split second, the ring catches the light. Frame 48 and beyond. He tries to rip the camera away. A nearly perfect plan. Undone by a single, fleeting detail. When disabling the camera failed, he tore leaves from a nearby plant and pressed them over the lens. By 1:52 a.m., the view went dark, but the system never truly stopped watching. Back-end motion data continued logging activity until 2:12 a.m. Then, at 2:28 a.m., Nancy Guthrie's pacemaker, linked to her Apple devices, suddenly stopped syncing. At that gap, 41 minutes, was all he needed. Enough time to enter, overpower an 84-year-old woman without hearing aids, without a phone, without any way to call for help, and vanish. No neighbors reported anything. No cameras captured a clear face or vehicle. Just silence. A blood was found on the porch. It was hers. Inside the house, everything remained. Her phone, her medication, her keys. The essentials of her life, untouched. She didn't leave. She was taken. On February 10th, Kash Patel released images and footage recovered from the Nest camera, despite the device itself being removed. Working with Google, investigators pulled data directly from back-end servers. What they revealed was chilling. A man, roughly 5 feet 9 inches to 5 feet 10 inches, average build, wearing a black ski mask, and one small detail that stood out more than anything else. Investigators caught a subtle but telling detail, a black mustache visible through the mask's mouth opening. On his back, he carried an Ozark Trail 25L hiking backpack, later publicly identified by the FBI to trace potential purchase records. But what stood out even more was the holster, strapped in an unusual 6 o'clock position at the front of his body, something firearms experts noted as highly uncommon outside specialized military setups. That holster quickly became its own lead. On February 19th, Chris Nanos confirmed investigators were taking its images to gun shops across Tucson, searching for anyone who might recognize it. Shop owners were shown dozens of reference photos, hoping for a match. The backpack was a lead. The holster was a lead. Even a glove found miles away briefly became one. But that lead collapsed. The glove, discovered near Sunrise Drive, seemed to match the suspects, until DNA testing told a different story. As later confirmed, it belonged to a restaurant worker who had simply lost it. No connection. A dead end that looked, for a moment, like a breakthrough. 3 detentions. 3 releases. No charges. A gray Range Rover tied to Annie Guthrie and Tommaso Caione was seized on February 13th and held for nearly a month before being returned. Still, investigators didn't rule it out. Thousands of hours of surveillance footage were reviewed, while DNA collected from the scene underwent genetic genealogy analysis, the same method used in the Golden State Killer case and the arrest of Brian Kohberger. Over 400 investigators worked every angle. And then, frame 47. At first, most people missed it. The footage was dark, distorted by infrared, the figure moving too quickly. Viewers focused on the obvious: the mask, the backpack, the holster. But others slowed it down, zoomed in, asked a different question: what didn't belong? And around February 17th to 18th, nearly 3 weeks into the case, a pattern emerged. Independent analysts, media, and investigators all began pointing to the same detail. On the suspect's right hand, beneath the tight black glove, there was a faint but distinct outline, a circular in the fabric at the base of the pinky. Not random. Not shadow. The unmistakable imprint of a ring. Something he never meant to reveal. Frame 47. Right hand. Pinky finger. In the grainy infrared, a faint but unmistakable indentation appears. A ring shape beneath the glove. When Liz Kreutz brought it to Chris Nanos, his reaction mattered. He didn't dismiss it. He didn't deny it. He said plainly, "I see it." Not speculation. Not rumor. The lead investigator on record, acknowledging the same detail others had begun to notice. He confirmed it would be analyzed, alongside the unusual holster, as a potential path forward. And in law enforcement terms, his choice of word was telling. Hopeful. Not certainty, but something real. Something worth pursuing. And now, 75 days after Nancy Guthrie vanished, that small detail has grown into something far larger. The footage was enhanced. The ring was studied. And where other leads failed, the glove, the detentions, the vehicle, this one held. Tucson area jewelry records have done what nothing else could. Connect that ring to a transaction, a purchase, a method of payment. A single frame. A single object. Now tied to a real identity. A name. After reviewing this case in detail, here's the reality. The ring is the strongest, most verifiable lead in the entire investigation. DNA takes time. Genetic genealogy can take months. Surveillance footage requires human identification. But a jewelry store record, a purchase tied to a name, address, payment method, and date, is concrete. It doesn't lie. It doesn't waver under scrutiny. Think back to when Chris Nanos said on record, "I see it. I see it." That moment changed everything. The ring in frame 47 went from detail to breakthrough. A jewelry forensics works like this. Investigators take a printed, enhanced image from a doorbell camera and walk into stores asking, "Does this look familiar?" Every distinct piece leaves a trace. A purchase, a receipt, a record. And sometimes, that trace is all it takes to connect an object on a hand to the person who put it there. A mass-produced ring leaves a trail, but one with specific features, a gold band, size 9, center stone, leaves a far narrower one. Frame 47 made it visible, enhanced by investigators, confirmed by Chris Nanos. Those details immediately shrink the field of possible buyers. And within Tucson's 50-mile radius, 43 jewelry stores, chains and independents, keep records and must respond to subpoenas. Each sale a potential lead, each transaction a possible connection. At the FBI's video forensics team, the same unit from the Brian Kohberger case, arrived February 12th to 13th with Pelican cases full of equipment. They measured height, build, arm length, hand position, even the distance from camera to ring, each data point refining the suspect profile and narrowing the list of possible transactions. Investigators showed frame 47 in those 43 stores. One said yes. Not maybe. Not something like this. Yes. The ring in that frame was sold there. A transaction record exists, a name is attached, and a driver's license was scanned, finally connecting a physical object from a single camera frame to a real person. The card was charged. The velvet box snapped shut. The receipt printed. And the customer stepped into Tucson sunlight wearing a ring that, months later, would appear in a doorbell camera at 1:47 a.m., a silent witness to a crime that gripped the nation. He covered everything: gloves, mask, backpack, every trace erased, except one. The ring. His everyday ring, worn so long it had become invisible to him, the one he never thought to leave behind. Investigators call this the one thing, the overlooked detail in an otherwise flawless plan. For Joseph D'Angelo, it was a discarded item. For Brian Kohberger, a lingering genetic trace. For this Tucson case on February 1st, 2026, it was the ring. Frame 47 caught it. Light hit it. And a single object changed everything. The FBI enhanced the footage. Chris Nanos confirmed the ring. Jewelry stores checked their records. And one said yes. As of March 17, 2026, day 75, this lead sits inside a web of simultaneous investigations, each thread building toward the same goal. The DNA thread is critical. On February 13th, the Pima County Sheriff's Department confirmed DNA from Nancy Guthrie's home did not match her or anyone in her circle. An unknown male profile, not in the National CODIS database, no prior convictions, no stored sample. By February 19th, investigators shifted to genetic genealogy, the same method that solved the Golden State Killer case and identified Brian Kohberger. C.C. Moore, chief genealogist at Parabon, confirmed the mixed DNA profile is analyzable, but it requires time to separate and trace through family lines. A Sheriff Nanos told NBC on March 13th, "Absolutely, that's going to get us to somebody. We hope he has hope." In law enforcement language, hope means the lead is credible, active, and being pursued. As of mid-March, the DNA work is still running, another crucial thread in a case moving toward resolution. The breakthrough in this case could come from the lab, but it might also come from another lead entirely. One of the most promising is the Ozark Trail 25L Hiker Backpack, sold only at Walmart and Walmart.com. On February 5th, Chris Nanos publicly called it a key lead. Subpoenas have gone out for purchase records in the relevant area and time frame. If the same name that bought the ring also bought the backpack, the case could effectively be closed before any other forensic results return. And meanwhile, thousands of hours of video are being reviewed. FBI and local teams are combing traffic cameras, ring doorbells, business systems, ATMs, and gas stations across Greater Tucson, looking for any vehicle that moved through Catalina foothills the night of January 31st into February 1st. One neighbor's ring camera, obtained exclusively by Fox News Digital, captured a car, identified by retired NYPD Detective Pat Brazen and his team as likely a Kia Soul, passing about 2.5 miles from Nancy Guthrie's home at 2:36 a.m. on February 1st. Every frame, every pixel is being analyzed, narrowing the suspect's path and timeline. In his March 2nd interview with NBC, Chris Nanos confirmed the car footage is being reviewed like any other evidence, though the vehicle hasn't been publicly identified. Another thread: internet disruptions. The night Nancy Guthrie vanished, something in Catalina foothills went offline. On March 5th, FBI and Pima County deputies canvassed neighbors door to door, asking if they noticed Wi-Fi or internet outages from January 31st into February 1st. One neighbor reported that his ring camera history for that night was mysteriously missing. A Sheriff Nanos confirmed the timeline. Something caused systems to go offline. Investigators checked power companies and examined a damaged utility box near the Guthrie home. As of March 13th, officials said it doesn't appear directly linked, but the possibility of deliberate electronic interference, the kind of prep a suspect would use to neutralize surveillance, remains an open question. The gun holster in the doorbell footage, mounted in a rare 6 o'clock position between the suspect's legs, is still under investigation. FBI agents have shown photos to Tucson gun shop owners, but no public match has emerged. Like a ring, a holster purchase leaves a record, and a record with a name can unlock multiple threads at once. When FBI agents visit a jewelry store with a printed still from an enhanced frame, the process is methodical. The owner examines the ring size, metal, stone placement, and shape. They review inventory, recall customers, and sometimes they say yes. That confirmation produces a name, a tangible lead in a case where DNA and masks offer few options. A DNA requires a prior record to match in Cody's, which came back empty here, pushing investigators toward genetic genealogy, a months-long process. Surveillance footage helps only if the suspect is recognizable, but ski masks conceal faces, and backpacks may be traceable but not tied to a buyer. Glove DNA looked promising but led to a dead end. The ring remains the first concrete, traceable link in this complex investigation. This ring is different. Purchased at a jewelry store, paid for with a method that left a transaction record and an ID scan, it exists in a limited pool of stores carrying this exact visual profile. A frame 47 wasn't guesswork. The FBI's video forensic unit didn't invent detail, they extracted it from the original pixels. Infrared sensors in the Nest doorbell capture more than what public images show. Ring shape, bandwidth relative to finger and knuckle, stone height above the surface. These measurements produce a visual description precise enough to visit 43 jewelry stores and ask one simple question: have you sold this? One store said yes. But a ring match alone doesn't trigger an arrest. It's the beginning of a chain of leads that law enforcement must verify before taking the next step. The ring match is the key. It produces a name. That name triggers a warrant, unlocking phone records, financial transactions, vehicle registration, employment history, and known associates. It gets run through every database, cross-referenced with the Walmart backpack purchase. That name is compared to the suspect's height and build from the enhanced forensic measurements. It enters DNA genealogy as a candidate profile. Most importantly, it attaches a face now traceable across every frame of thousands of hours of Tucson surveillance footage. Suddenly, the investigation accelerates. The anonymous masked figure becomes a specific person. Every prior dead end reopens. The glove found near Sunrise Drive, the car scene at 2:36 a.m., the neighbor who spotted someone suspicious days earlier, even the internet outage that coincided with the operation window. All threads now converge on a single, traceable individual. Every data point now carries a question. Does the name from the jewelry store fit the pattern? When you combine that ring identification with the ongoing DNA genetic genealogy and the Walmart backpack purchase records, it looks like all three threads are closing in on the same individual. The jewelry store lead may finally anchor the suspect's identity in a way the investigation hasn't achieved in 75 days of intense work. How quickly law enforcement moves from here will reveal just how strong this match is. The ring is not isolated. It exists within an investigation running 17 simultaneous threads, all tightening over 75 days. Billboards featuring Nancy Guthrie's image and the FBI tip line were placed across 4 states in early March 2026, keeping public awareness high while every lead, from DNA to purchase records, continues to converge. Billboards went up in Phoenix, Albuquerque, Los Angeles, El Paso, Dallas, San Antonio, and Houston. 7 cities spanning the Southwest to Texas. The campaign wasn't random. It traced a corridor. The theory: the suspect might have left Arizona, hiding along the desert route from southern Arizona through New Mexico and West Texas, maybe even near the Mexican border. The FBI never confirmed that publicly, but the placement tells a story. Retired FBI agent Jennifer Kaffender reviewed the campaign and praised its awareness reach, but diplomatically called it a shotgun approach. In reality, 7 billboards across major cities hint at a targeted direction. The message was deliberate. Visibility along the desert corridor and population centers between Tucson and the Gulf Coast aimed to catch anyone with knowledge of the suspect's movements. A new development emerged in mid-March. Investigators returned to the Catalina Foothills neighborhood, knocking door to door, not for February 1st, but for footage from January 11th and January 24th, 3 weeks and 1 week before the abduction. These aren't random dates. Asking specifically for footage from those days signals that law enforcement believes the suspect was active in the area, conducting reconnaissance before the crime. January 11th and 24th, same streets, same neighborhood, 2 key windows in the weeks leading up to the kidnapping. This was targeted canvassing, looking for the scout visits that set the stage for February 1st. Every prior detail now gains context. Investigators confirmed the suspect returned to Nancy Guthrie's home before February 1st. Fox News digital sources verified 2 separate visits, the first without a backpack or holster, the second the night of the abduction. The early visit was clearly reconnaissance, checking camera angles, lighting, neighborhood activity, and the Nest doorbell's exact placement. Every detail observed in that first trip informed the second. FBI agents reviewed nearby footage quietly, without revealing what they sought, standard practice when tracking a specific vehicle or face. This shows a methodical, experienced planner behind the crime, someone who prepared thoroughly before acting. The neighborhood internet disruption during the abduction points to a careful, tech-savvy operator, someone who understood digital surveillance as a threat and acted to neutralize it. Yet despite meticulous planning, 2 prior visits, a mask, gloves, holster, backpack, and 41 minutes of flawless execution, the suspect made one small human error: he wore his everyday ring. The one so familiar it's part of his hand, slipped on without thought. That ring, visible in frame 47 of the Nest doorbell at 1:47 a.m., became more than a detail. It led to a Tucson jewelry store transaction, a receipt, and a name. As of March 17, 2026, day 75, that name is now in the hands of investigators who have been chasing him since an empty chair revealed Nancy Guthrie was gone. Investigations rarely hinge on one discovery, but sometimes one overlooked habit changes everything. Investigations end with convergence, the point where independent threads tighten around a single person and coincidence is no longer plausible. Defense attorneys stop calling evidence circumstantial. They start calling it decisive. That moment feels near. A DNA from Nancy Guthrie's home, a mixed profile absent from CODIS, is moving through genetic genealogy. C.C. Moore at Parabon confirmed this method has solved high-profile cases before. Success, not speculation. The Walmart backpack, flagged by Sheriff Nanos on February 5th, remains one of the most promising leads. And now add a Tucson jewelry store, a receipt, 3 independent transaction trails, all pointing to the same individual who stood on that porch at 1:47 a.m. and forgot his ring. This is how cases that end in arrest look in the final days. Multiple threads converging, investigators tight-lipped, the phrase, active investigation, deployed deliberately. Is this where we are now? I think it is. 75 days in, Nancy Ellen Guthrie, born January 27, 1942, turned 84 just 4 days before someone took her from her home. The threads are aligning, and the question is whether this week marks the turning point. A pacemaker tracking her heartbeat. Medication she cannot miss. Hearing aids left charging on the nightstand. Nancy Guthrie has been missing 75 days. Sheriff Chris Nanos has repeatedly said he believes she is alive. The FBI continues scanning Tucson with signal-detecting equipment. A device is tuned to the Bluetooth and radio frequencies of an implanted pacemaker. Not to locate a body, but to find a living heart. Investigators are searching because they believe Nancy is still out there. 75 days in, and they are relentless. A $1.1 million in reward money remains unclaimed, $100,000 from the FBI, $1 million from the Guthrie family. Offers made with the kind of urgency that turns wealth into a plea for one phone call with the right information. A one lead. One person with knowledge who has not spoken. Meanwhile, the Guthrie family continues leaving flowers, writing notes, and sharing messages of hope. Savannah posted on March 2nd, "We feel the love and prayers from neighbors, Tucson, and across the country. Please don't stop hoping. Bring her home. Bring her home." While the Guthrie family waits, Tucson surrounds them with yellow flowers, handmade signs, and the grief of a community watching a family endure what no one should. Behind the scenes, investigators are processing a DNA profile in a lab. Agents are reviewing Walmart purchase records. They hold frame 47 from the doorbell footage beside a jewelry store receipt, comparing the two. The man in the mask, the suspect who wore a pinky ring that night, thought he had covered every trace. He believed gloves, a mask, a backpack, and careful timing would keep him invisible. 41 minutes in a quiet neighborhood would leave no evidence. He was wrong. Wrong about the cameras Google recovered without a cloud account. Wrong about the DNA left behind. Wrong about the gloves, the Walmart exclusive backpack, the holster, and most of all, wrong about frame 47. That ring, the everyday pinky ring he never removed, carries its own history, a receipt, a transaction record, a name. One subpoena, one judge's signature, and law enforcement has the full paper trail. The one thing he never calculated became the thread unraveling the entire operation. Keep hoping. Bring her home. Tucson surrounds the Guthrie family with flowers, signs, and quiet grief. Meanwhile, investigators are running DNA in a lab, chasing the traces he left behind. A frame 47 sits next to a jewelry store receipt. Walmart records are open. The masked man, the pinky ring on his hand, thought he left no evidence. A gloves, mask, backpack, precise timing, he believed it was enough. 41 minutes in a dark neighborhood, and he would vanish. He was wrong. Wrong about cameras, DNA, gloves, backpack, holster. Wrong about the ring. That simple pinky ring holds a receipt, a name, a paper trail. One subpoena, one signature, and the evidence lines up. The thing he never thought about is what breaks the case wide open. These aren't just leads. properly subpoenaed, authenticated, and preserved documents, receipts, cards, store records, link a name, a date, a purchase, and a hand wearing the pinky ring in frame 47. At that convergence, paper trail, video of the ring in action, and a matching physical description is a prosecutorial framework, not speculation. DNA sits in the lab, the Walmart backpack is traceable, and the Tucson jewelry store holds a receipt. And when investigators shift from collection to charging, when the 75-day case file is complete, the headline won't read "Person of Interest" or "Released without charges." It will read "Arrested." And frame 47, the 3 seconds of infrared capturing a pinky ring under a glove at 1:47 a.m., will be the first exhibit the jury sees. Bring her home.